David today, and we've got a few procedural things to start with before we move on to the main event. So if you'd like to initially bear with us, firstly, I need to confirm the minutes from last meeting. Agreed. Agreed. Do we have any apologies for absence, Lena?
Kim Knight, head of licensing, has given apologies, and David, the head of licensing, is lead officer, is taking her place.
Thank you. And are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay, bear with me for 1 moment. You can only open one thing at a time. So I'd like to welcome you all here this morning. Of course, we need to introduce ourselves first. I'm the standing chair, Councillor David Deacon, and I've got lots of experience with me on the committee. Councillor Terry Dewis and Councillor Ron Tyndall. We have to my right James, who is the legal person here today. What we will be doing, we will be having an initial part of participation. We'll be hearing first, and I've got a particular order which I hopefully everyone's seen and familiar with. Right, okay, so we'll be hearing from David first, and then we'll be hearing from the applicant. And I do believe that you have unlimited time, but on the public participation, it's in the rules that you are limited to 2 minutes. I will read out the order just in case anyone is not aware. We're starting with Councillor Garrett Stevens. And in a particular order, we've got, hopefully I get all the names right, I do apologise, Eliza Herman. And second is Caroline Bailey. Third is Arjun Kuparov. Fourth is Amy Groves. Fifth is Karima Sultan. And sixth is Tanya Harford, and to finish is Katie Locke, or Kate Locke, sorry, is what I say. Naturally, if we, we'll allow everyone who speaks to disrespect, and there's no chanting or questioning. That's, I guess, our job. It's also, I need to make you aware that this meeting is being recorded and will be shown on YouTube. So just need to make you all aware of that you're comfortable with that. Okay. I think we're okay to crack on. So over to you, sir.
You have before you an application for the grant of a new time-limited premises licence held at Kitchener's Field, Castle Hill, Berkhamsted, HP4 1HE. This application seeks authorisation for the provision of live music, playing of recorded music, performances of dance, the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises, and late-night refreshment. The application is set out in the report pack on pages 9 through 29. The 34 representations received are set out on pages 30 through 99. The 25 emails of support are set out on pages 100 through 124. The applicant and the persons who made representations have been invited to attend today's meeting to address the committee, and the details of those speaking and their submissions have been forwarded to the members ahead of the meeting. The options available for the committee today are set out at paragraph 4.1 of the introductory section of the report on page 4 of the bundle. The committee are reminded that the application must be considered on its own merits, that legislation and guidance are adhered to, and any steps taken must be considered appropriate in order to promote one or more of the licensing objectives. Committee members are also reminded that any other functions, such as planning or environmental factors, have been considered by appropriate departments, and they will have made their decisions based on their specific legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I guess it's over to you, Jack, as the applicant, and please proceed.
Hello, my name is Jack Blesson, and I'm one of the organisers of Berko Fields Festival, which is scheduled to take place at the Berkhamsted Cricket Club from the 11th to the 13th of September. My fellow director and I both are residents of Berkhamsted, and our aim is to host a music festival for the local population of Dacorum that will have a positive impact on the local community and its economy. Our event is aimed at all age groups with a particular focus on families in Berkhamsted and the surrounding areas, with one of the days of the festivals being specifically targeted at families and children. As I'm sure you've seen from a number of emails in support of this application, there's a great desire from many residents in Berkhamsted and the local community, from the local community for this event to take place. This event has been created by residents of Berkhamsted for the local community of Berkhamsted. Berko Fields Festival team and I are fully committed to running a safe, well-managed operation with a robust operation schedule. We have employed Danny Mount, who's on my left, from G&F Events to ensure that we have a robust events management plan in place that has carefully considered the four main licence objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. Danny has vast experience in event management and will be on site throughout the festival if this licence is granted. Additionally, my fellow director and I have vast experience in working and running festivals up and down the country. I hold a personal licence myself, and I've been involved in working various festivals across the UK for the last 11 years. Throughout the process of organising the festival, we have engaged and cooperated fully with Licensing Authority, the Safety Advisor Group, Hertfordshire Constabulary, Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and the Counter-Terrorism Security Advisors, and a number of other relevant stakeholders. Importantly, throughout this process of organising the festival, none of these parties have submitted any objections to this application. Whilst we appreciate this does not necessarily dictate the outcome of this application, we would respectfully request that the committee takes this into consideration when assessing this application. The application has proposed various measures, to ensure it is run appropriately and smoothly. This includes, but is not limited to, professional managed security arrangements, Challenge 25, CCTV, medical provisions, fire prevention, and the implementation of a structured event management plan. We've also applied for a road closure, which has been granted in collaboration with the Herts Highways. There's been significant focus on noise management to minimise any potential noise disturbances that may be caused to residents by implementing a carefully designed site plan and noise management plan. All of the above mentioned measures have been carefully considered and implemented to support our event management plan and to promote the main four licensing objectives. We acknowledge that representations have been submitted regarding the four licensing objectives, and we understand a few residents have concerns regarding potential disturbances from events such as noise. However, we have carefully created an operation schedule and an event management plan to mitigate any potential disturbances. I've read through every representation and also organised a meeting with the local residents to understand their concerns to ensure that all their concerns are considered in full. There are some residents who have raised concerns regarding previous events that have been held at Berkhamsted Cricket Club. However, I'd like to respectfully ask the committee to consider the application based on our operating schedule and our events management plan, rather than previous events, which are separate from this application. Berko Fields Festival, which is a separate legal entity from Berkhamsted Cricket Club. Lastly, I'd like to say I appreciate that no festival can take place without some impact, but I'm confident that as a result of meticulous planning and preparation which has taken place over several months, that we've created a plan that promotes and supports the four main licensing objectives. Further, this plan has enabled us to identify potential foreseeable risks and implement appropriate precautions to mitigate against risks. As an organiser, I remain fully committed to work with all stakeholders, not before the event, but during and after, to ensure the event is a success and has a positive impact on the local community.
Thank you very much. I just want to clarify just a point. We were just talking about, when we'll be asking questions, and we just decided we'll let everyone talk first, and then we do that. So it's Danny, are you going to be speaking?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I should have explained to all the people talking today, for some reason, I'm a left-handed person, but left-handed button does nothing. It's a right-handed button to turn your mic on. You'll see the red light, and you press it to turn it off. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good morning, Chair, members of the Licensing Subcommittee. Thank you for allowing us to speak today so that we can make our own sort of representations. I appreciate that a significant number of representations have been submitted in relation to this application, and I appreciate the time that it has probably taken you all to read through those thoroughly, so thank you for that. I've personally reviewed those representations as well, and they've formed an integral part of the planning of this event. And they've actually led to some significant changes to the way that we're planning to sort of manage the event and some of the measures that we've put in place in order to manage the event safely and not only promote the licensing objectives, but also safeguard them as well. Examples of that include residents raised concerns around fire risk management with the warm weather that we've been having here throughout the country, but also in particular the dry land. So that's led us to reassess our risk in relation to fire prevention, and we've actually hired professional firefighters to come and manage the fire control throughout, and they're going to be bringing equipment with them, which is over and above what you'd probably necessarily see at normal events. So they will be bringing firefighting equipment in the form of a 4x4 truck with a significant amount of water on it that can respond should there be any cause for that during the event. On the same line, obviously the risk management of pyrotechnics and stage effects, that's being reconsidered as we speak, and we're working with Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue in order to sort of come up with a plan with that, and if we need to, we will absolutely scale back on the type and nature of the effects for the event in order to promote public safety. Other concerns that were raised by residents include public nuisance from historic events, and I'd like to echo Jack's sort of point on that. With regard to, I'd respectfully ask the committee to consider the application on the management procedures and the operating schedule that's now before you, and not necessarily based on the assumption that previous events would be repeated. We have significantly more, from my understanding of previous events, security that are licensed to the SIA. We haven't shared information publicly on that for security reasons. However, all of our plans have been submitted by the SAG, the Safety Advisory Group, and we've received no comments or concerns in relation to that through the SAG process, which I believe you're within your rights as a panel to take into due consideration. So my purpose of my submission today and my speaking is not to sort of suggest that the residents' concerns are unfounded in any way whatsoever. And we've shown throughout the planning process and throughout our engagement with the residents that we do want to listen, and then we will make changes to the plans in order to mitigate against things such as public nuisance. So part of that was around noise That's formed a significant plan. We do have a dedicated noise management plan that was submitted through the SAG process, and no concerns were raised to environmental health or any other parties throughout that SAG process with regard to noise. Careful site layout and site procedures have been put in place as well. Monitoring procedures relating to noise and also noise barriers are intended to put in place to prevent noise spill and prevent public nuisance to nearby residents. Additional to that, antisocial behaviour was another common and key theme that came through, sort of in relation to sort of an alcohol-led event. What we've put in place is a significant amount of security and also operational procedures in order to manage particularly ingress and egress, where participants in the festival will be passing nearby residents' homes. Part of that will include marshalling all event attendees past those homes to prevent any antisocial behaviour that was reported from previous events. And so we're seeking to learn from other events and put measures in place to mitigate against that. Other measures that we've put in place to prevent public nuisance, because parking became a significant point of concern for residents. We have applied for quite a significant set of traffic regulation orders from Hertfordshire Highways. They've been granted, and so there will be a significant amount of parking restriction as well as complementary road closures that will be professionally managed by CSAS trained traffic management. So they will have authority to direct traffic throughout that period of the festival. There will be no parking on any of the residential roads nearby. We are actively saying that there is no parking for the event and people are to arrive by public transport. On the public transport, the main area of public transport that will be used will be Berkhamsted train station. We've liaised with them and we've asked them if we can place signage within the station, which they've agreed to. We've also got stewarding, which will take place in Berkhamsted train station that we are providing in order to direct festival goers through a safer route and coming out of the Castle Hill side of Berkhamsted train station, preventing them meeting the pinch point on the other side of the station under the railway bridge. Sorry if you're not familiar with that sort of the geography. What I'm trying to demonstrate to you, Chair and members, is that a significant amount of planning and also listening has taken place. We are seeking to learn from other events and also from my experience within the events industry. I was formerly a police officer within the Metropolitan Police for over 10 years and had significant responsibility for planning and managing major public events, major incidents, and also public order. So it's a significant area of expertise from my part, and that has gone all into the planning. Just to give you some context, our event management plan is 93 pages long, so you can imagine that there's a significant amount of procedures. Naturally, we wouldn't share that entirely publicly for security reasons and to maintain the integrity of the operational arrangements throughout the event. But as I say, it has been shared with the SAG. Excuse me, sorry. No outdoor event can be entirely without risk or without impact on the local area. However, I see my role as a professional event manager to identify those foreseeable risks and identify the identifiable impact and to put in place a scheme of measures in order to mitigate against those. And I respectfully submit to the panel that we have indeed done that. We've gone perhaps over and above what you'd expect for an event of this size and nature, but also potentially previous events that have taken place in the area which may have had the historical issues that have been caused. So we've put significant measures in place. As we said previously, the applicant does remain entirely committed to working constructively with local residents, but also with the statutory bodies associated with event management locally. And we will and are open to any reasonable conditions that the panel may see fit to place on the event in order to be sure that it can be run safely and promote all 4 licensing objectives. So for that reason, for the reasons that I've said, I respectfully request that the panel do grant the licence, because I believe that it is capable of not only promoting the licensing objectives, but safeguarding them as well. So thank you for your consideration.
Can you hear me? Well, let's hope we can hear you. So, thank you very much for spending the time. It seems very detailed. Thank you. And now we're going to go on to the public speakers, starting with Councillor Garrick Stevens.
That's right. We're used to the technology not working all the time. Right. Yes, yes. Okay. Going back, this is the first time that Berkhamsted has requested attendance at this licensing committee. And it follows from what was quite a fiery conversation that we had at a planning meeting back in July, when we didn't have all the details that are being talked about today. We consider the public order issues sufficiently serious that the council should be represented. You've referenced the list of objections and supporters' comments in Appendix D and Appendix E. And we're concerned about the issues not just on the event site itself, but what takes place off-site as well. The scale of the operation is not mentioned anywhere, but we were led to believe that we're talking about possible attendance of 3,000 people per day, which is far greater than we had previously considered as a daytime event in the past. So the factors to be considered are the on-site event itself and the off-site pre and especially post-event issues, given the numbers anticipated for each day and evening of the event. The license application that came to us was silent on the numbers. It didn't even tell us the dates that the event was going to be run. We had to ask the question. So we had serious misgivings about this. And we note that the officer's report now defines it as a request for a single event. Now, the organization that's actually running it is Brewfest, which is a dormant company. And it's been dormant for a number of years. And in fact, if you look up the accounts, the last set of accounts tells us it's a £2 capitalized company. So I'm hopeful that we've become much more solvent to be able to take this forward. The scale of the event is what bothered us. The local evidence from the residents in the surrounding areas tell us that there's ample evidence that the loud amplified music can be heard from a distance. And if the committee is minded to grant approval, a maximum loudness and condition should be applied, particularly during the evening, and suggest that we might also consider shutting down external noise earlier than is requested in the license.
Councillor Stevens, you're running out of time. I don't know whether you saw the timer at the top. It might be put on after, so I'll give you a few more seconds if you don't mind finishing up.
Okay, right. Well, I'll come to the conclusion then. We've got issues about what takes place off-site, the dispersal of people into the surrounding streets. How do we manage people into the sang and possible incursions into people's back gardens? The SIA people do not have the authority to be able to manage it off-site, we understand. The 3-day event is overambitious for this very sensitive location adjacent to residential properties. And we suggest, if you're minded to consent, that there should be a reduction in the late hours for both music and refreshments, and the maximum loudness condition be applied in particular during the evenings.
Thank you very much, Garrick. I have to stop you there. So I can't see it. I've got a screen now, so there should be also for everyone else a timer behind me, and now I can see that. So I don't really want to interrupt anyone, and a few seconds here or there is fine. But we've got a lot to get through. Thank you very much. So, Elisa, hello. Over to you.
My name is Eliza Herman. My neighbors and I will be making different points, but we all share the same concerns. We ask the committee to refuse this license in its entirety because it undermines the licensing objectives. This is because Kitchener's Field is in an unsuitable location for any large festival, particularly one involving 3 days and 2 nights of crowds, alcohol, amplified music, artificial lighting, and pyrotechnics. We know the location is unsuitable because recent smaller events there have resulted in crime, public nuisance, and risks to public safety. We've had loud music and shouting keeping us awake past midnight, trespass into our gardens and damage to fencing, littering, antisocial behavior, and verbal abuse. The OS map in my written submission shows the cricket club and the surrounding school playing fields, farm fields, and the new Sang with its wildlife habitats, its scheduled monument, and its hundreds of newly planted trees. These surrounding areas are all open access via public footpaths. Once festival goers leave the cricket club, the applicant has no lawful control over them, creating an obvious opportunity for noisy gatherings and wild camping in these surrounding fields all weekend. Indeed, why even buy a ticket? People can gather in these fields to watch and listen for free, as we've seen them do for past events, including children and underage drinkers. All this is within the Chilterns National Landscape, with its statutory protections for landscape, wildlife, and tranquility. Our neighborhood is just 100 meters from the cricket club, and my neighbors will now give evidence of the problems that I've just summarized. The applicant says this festival is different from past events, but the location is not, and these problems arise from the location itself. Finally, I know this is outside licensing, but please note there is a live planning enforcement case because planning permission is for cricket and youth football only on this site, not commercial events or festivals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's Caroline. Yeah, welcome.
Hello, my name is Caroline Bailey. The specific nature of this three-day festival undermines the licensing objectives. It's of a size never before seen in Berkhamsted and totally inappropriate for this site. The organisers apparently are hoping for up to 5,000 attendees each day. Do we realise that's almost 25% of the entire population of Berkhamsted? And it would swamp any local facilities and infrastructure. This is not a community event for locals. Bercow Fields is being heavily promoted on social media, emphasising the ease of reaching Berkhamsted from Birmingham and London. With more than 8,000 people already following them online, there's no knowing how many people will turn up with or without tickets. Along with alcohol available for up to 11 hours a day, it's promising heavily amplified Ibiza-style club and house music, an exclusive spectacle of breathtaking display lighting up the sky on Friday and Saturday nights. This event uses strobe lighting, smoke, lasers, pyrotechnics, flames, CO2 effects, and drones in a field 100 meters from our homes in the hottest, driest summer on record. The organisers have no legal means of controlling numbers outside the site. As can be seen from their own plan, the surrounding fields are easily accessible on all sides of the cricket club. We haven't been able to secure any evidence that Brewfest or its contractors, GNF Events, actually have experience of managing such large events. This raises serious doubt about their capability to safely manage up to 5,000 people on each of these days. Based on past events, there will be crime and disorder, antisocial behaviour, and a risk to safety, public safety, of both those attending the event and the people of Berkhamsted. Please reject this licence application.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Arjun?
My name is Arian Cooper-Rolfe. I object on the grounds of crime, disorder and antisocial behaviour, which have factually been experienced by local residents as a number of much smaller events that have been held at this location. One example is an event held at the Cricket Club on the 26th of June for only 100 guests, which resulted in trespass, threatening behaviour and damage to property, highlighting the challenges of managing this proposed festival for up to 5,000 people per day and night. It is well known that the topography of the valley surrounding the site enables sound to travel at elevated levels over a wide area. On 26th of June, local residents were exposed to unhealthy levels of sound throughout the event and were also deprived of sleep until the early hours as attendees dispersed into the Sang and local streets. At 12:45 in the morning, a 60-year-old neighbour was aggressively threatened by a group of around 10 guests who were trespassing on the lawn of an elderly Castle Hill resident. She asked them to move on. One of them threatened to smash her effing head in. The applicant acknowledges that they do not have the power to prevent antisocial behaviour of festival goers outside the cricket club. The influx of large numbers of festival goers to the Sang and Kitchener's Field is a serious concern, given that 3 gardens have recently been broken into directly from these sites. Specifically, fences were broken and property taken and dumped into the Sang by people who had been drinking and, we strongly believe, using drugs. There are no toilet facilities outside the cricket club and people have been seen urinating on public footpaths. We note that no toilets will be available in the town to festival goers exiting the festival after 11:30. To conclude, experience of recent events confirms that there is a real, not theoretical threat of crime, disorder and antisocial threatening behaviour.
Thank you very much. Amy?
Good morning. My name is Amy Groves. This festival creates a real risk to public safety. Thousands of people arriving and leaving on all 3 days will have to funnel through the only official entrance to the Bercow Fields Festival. This runs directly by our houses and was never designed for thousands of people. During the festival, residents will have to navigate through large groups of people to reach our homes. We know from experience that this is intimidating, especially when people have been drinking. We have serious concerns about site security. It will be extremely difficult to ensure only ticket holders gain entry, as seen in the photographic evidence provided, as the publicly accessible sand and fields border the site. I have submitted video of my fences being kicked down by a group of teenagers exiting a gathering at Kitchener's Field. This demonstrates how difficult it would be to control crowds on a much larger scale. Parking is a further risk to public safety. The festival organisers have arranged for roads around the sites to be closed and coned off during the event, but this will impact other roads across town with additional congestion, inconsiderate and dangerous parking. As details in our representation, we have seen this during many previous and much smaller events. According to National Rail, on Friday night, there are only 2 trains to London after 11:30, the first just being 2 minutes after the festival ends, and one more at 12:13. On Saturday, there's only 1 train to London at 11:30. If these are cancelled, people miss them, or they're overcrowded, people will remain in the residential area, gather on the high street, or even enter Berkhamsted Castle, a scheduled ancient monument, creating disturbance and damage. I believe the public safety risk associated with these licence applications have been significantly underestimated. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Karima?
Hi, my name is Karima Sutsan, and I'm going to talk about the harms to children from this event. The festival will have amplified music from an outside stage until 11 p.m. on both Friday and Saturday nights during school term time. Friday's event is restricted to over 18s, but that doesn't protect children living near the site. They're excluded from the event, but not protected from the noise that it produces. The Hearing Health Foundation notes that safe noise limits designed for adults are not suitable for children. This is a real issue for children. As an example, the relentless noise from events at this site triggers my young son's intense migraines, causing him great anxiety, preventing him from sleeping, and means he misses school. During hot weather, we have to leave our windows open, so we can't escape the noise. My son is already anxious about the possibility of the noise from this event and this festival, once again affecting his health. We're also increasingly concerned about the fire risk to our homes. There have been multiple fires in the surrounding fields over previous years, and the fire brigade has already attended more than once this year. If a fire takes hold, our families are at a serious risk. On the 26th of June, as the event on the cricket club was finishing, a fire started and the fire brigade attended twice and had to go again 2 days after when it was reignited. The organizers have stated the intent to use hay bales for noise control. This combined with pyrotechnics, smoke and flames in the current tinder dry conditions is a clear fire risk in an area with a demonstrated fire history. This festival is a threat to both mental health and the physical health of many children living in the neighborhood and to the public safety more broadly. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Tanya.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Harford. I wish to address the considerable public nuisance that this festival will cause, not only to the residents close to the site, but across Berkhamsted. The most significant is the level of noise pollution, which will happen over 3 days and 2 nights. The festival promises an incredible night of house music and dance anthems, and the powerful sounds of a 28-piece Ibiza orchestra. It is not designed to be a quiet event, no matter how good its noise management plan is. I want to provide just a few examples that demonstrate the nuisance and distress caused by noise from recent, much smaller events in this location. A recent party with around 100 attendees produced noise levels that were high enough to stop residents sleeping in houses over 200 metres away. An event in June where music was being played inside the clubhouse was still loud enough to prevent neighbours from sleeping. At yet another event, a small band was playing inside an acoustic tent. Despite this, the music was recorded on a smartphone at 88 decibels at a house on Castle Hill and was audible over a mile away on the other side of Berkhamsted. The bands at this festival will be playing on an outdoor stage, making the sound many times louder than any previous events. Amplified music and flashing light displays can also trigger severe stress in animals, impacting the horses stabled in the adjacent field and local wildlife. The WHO has declared noise pollution to be a major public health threat. The Institute for the Deaf states that hearing damage can occur after just 4 hours at 88 decibels. Another public nuisance will be litter. Dropped outside the confines of the event, we've had to clear broken glass and nitrous oxide canisters from the fields and clear up rubbish strewn around the bins at the railway station after previous events. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well timed. Well timed. Thank you. And lastly, it's Kate.
Morning, my name's Kate Locke. In conclusion, this festival would be many times larger than any previous event at this location. And during previous small events, Berkhamsted's residents have been subject, as you've heard, to noise disturbance, littering, trespassing, property damage, antisocial behaviour, threatening behaviour, traffic congestion and dangerous parking. We know that the Licensing Act requires every application to be determined on its own merits. The applicant has stated that Berko Fields Festival is a separate event organised by Brewfest Limited with its own management team. They have asked that the committee do not assume that the operational issues experienced during unrelated events will necessarily be repeated, but we ask the committee to consider the following 2 facts. The first is that Jack Blesson, the director of Brewfest Limited, in his capacity as commercial manager for the Mad Squirrel Brewery, who hold the concession at the cricket club, has for the past several years been responsible for the bar, food and the events at the cricket club. Thus, he has been directly responsible for many of the events detailed in each of our representations and speeches today. The second fact is that the issues experienced in this location are, as you have heard, an inevitable consequence of the fact that the location itself is unsuitable. There's public access to all the surrounding fields, and as the applicant stated in writing to us, he cannot lawfully control land beyond the event boundary. The noise, which is amplified by the topography of the valley, cannot be adequately mitigated by any noise control measures. Berkhamsted already has significant traffic congestion and parking issues. Its infrastructure simply would not cope with the influx. We respectfully ask that the committee to refuse permission for this license application in its entirety, as it will, as each of us has demonstrated, breach every single one of the 4 licensing objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Well, at this point, I'd like to thank everyone who's spoken today, but I think myself and the committee would also like to put on record and appreciate all the comments in support as well as against that have been also sent to the committee. Please bear with me one moment until I get a clarification of how the next part proceeds. Just going to take a 1 or 2 minute break. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. So just to give you an idea of the process that we followed this, it's still morning, isn't it? This morning, myself and the committee members will be asking, quite a few questions. And once that has been complete, we will be then left on our own to, try to make an outcome. We do have a legal obligation, I believe, to do that within 5 working days, is it? But we do hope that that's going to be done today. And at that point, people are welcome to stay, but we've got no idea how long that process will take until we've just looked at all the facts that have been presented. Okay.
Chair. Additionally, some points were raised that weren't previously disclosed to us before this meeting. The planning enforcement, appreciate isn't part of the licensing committee's jurisdiction. However, we would appreciate the right to reply on that if it's at all within the agenda. Just a couple.
No, noted. Thank you very much. I'll get back to you on that one. Thank you very much for that observation. That appeared on, I think, page 138 on my guide. And so well spotted. So what we've decided to do is myself and my 2 fellow committee members, we are going to ask lots of questions, mainly towards the applicant. Those might be questions that you might have wanted to ask yourselves. So if you could, bear with us through that part of the process. We are, if you feel that you have different questions, because no cross-examination is allowed, what we've agreed is that if you write the questions that you want further asked, and we will ask them on your behalf. Okay. And I will get back to you on your point as well.
I did put one in front.
I have a point of clarification, please, for Councillor Stevens. You mentioned at the beginning of your presentation a planning committee meeting. You didn't actually identify whether that was a planning committee meeting for Berkhamsted Town Council or Dacorum Borough Council. Could you clarify, please? So to put it another way, Berkhamsted Town Council meeting.
You guys keep that one.
Hello, Councillor Tyndall. I've been asked to start. I've had experience in organising these things. I met some years ago in London. I used to ran the biggest tented show in the London area for 3 years between 67 and 69, the Dagenham Town Show. So on behalf of the council. So first of all, I'm a bit concerned that we don't seem to have any comment from the responsible authorities, the fire service and the police. I don't know if anybody could help us there. I see an involvement of both, but at the moment, I see no comment of any of those services. I'll leave that lying, and if someone could help us on that. Secondly, asking the applicants, if I may, are you erecting any structures or marquees or anything like that on the site?
Yes, we are. So they will be to house the sort of the bar area and also the stage would be classed.
And will you be getting those safety tested by the fire authority?
So they will have fire retardant linings to the relevant BS standard, and yes.
But will they be certified?
They will be certified to that standard, yes, by the manufacturer. We don't conduct burn tests anymore or anything like that.
Lovely.
So, yeah, they will be compliant.
And that includes anything that involves the cooking of food or anything like that?
Absolutely, and that's all form part of our fire risk assessment within our event management plan.
Okay. Secondly, so the actual event, and what insurances have you taken out on the whole event?
If I could defer to Jack, I have seen the insurance certificate, but it was Jack that took that policy out, so he may be best placed to answer that, if I may.
Hello. Yes, we've got full event insurance that covers public liability. Plus, we've also got pretty much a full package. So we've gone with a specialist event insurance, which covers effectively everything.
And have they put any specific requirements upon you
in
terms of safety?
Not in the insurance. We're obviously covered up to certain amounts effectively.
Right, okay, fine. Moving on, now it's you put down 5,000 expected on each day. Given that this location doesn't seem to have any perimeter fencing or any way of preventing people from entering from virtually any side, how will you control who comes in and any interlopers who haven't paid?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is something that we identified as part of our planning process. And so the proposed measures, we have 8 lanes of search that will be going in sort of initially. So with a combination of ticketing, the digital tickets, but also as a backup, we'll have security with clickers in and out so that we can be sure of the numbers that are in at any one time. But also we will be securing particularly vulnerable areas of the site. I appreciate it's quite low fencing in some of the areas, with Harris fencing to reinforce those, including as well sort of regular security patrols to make sure that people can't sort of get into the event that as trespassers.
So you're going to erect fencing around the areas
Around the vulnerable areas, absolutely.
And that will be certified, no doubt. And also you're going to employ security patrols.
Absolutely. So we have contingency within our security team for a response team as well. So it's not just the team that will be sort of conducting the searches and things like that. We actually have a response team of 6 security officers that can respond to any incidents that happen on the site. So we do have resilience as well.
Right. And given the different classifications of SIA licenses, will the operatives that you employ be of sufficient number and sufficient training to deal with every likely identifiable risk?
Yes, absolutely. And just a further point on that, if I may, members, the SIA authorised people will have the same powers as any citizen if they're witnessing a crime. However, because of the nature of their work being security, there would be an expectation on them to intervene. So the ASB issues that were raised by residents, there would be they've got the same exact powers as any citizen has to intervene if they're witnessing a crime at that point.
Yeah, but sorry, if I may interrupt. I assume you are aware of the different classifications of SIA certification.
Yes, absolutely. I work in the security industry currently as well.
And are you aware that it's only people who are specially trained that are entitled to actually approach people and actually act by restraining people, and that those who haven't been sufficiently trained don't have the necessary licenses and so are not allowed to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So anybody that will be attending the event would be a minimum of a door supervisor, in which case they will have undergone.
I'm not talking about just door supervisors. I'm talking about people who are specially trained to actually deal with people in a hands-on approach, should that be necessary.
That is part of the SIA security course. So it's 6 days long and it does include physical intervention training.
Right. So that's the top end. So you're going to have quite a few of those, are you?
Absolutely, so yeah.
All right. Okay. No doubt the police would have inspected all those precautions, which is why I asked them my first question. I think I'll leave it there for the moment while I mull over the answers and perhaps pass on to somebody else.
Thank you very much. I've got quite a number of questions, which I'll probably deal with in 2 groups, but the questions I think will be quite short. Mr. Besson, you started off your presentation by saying this was an event for local residents and it had been created by local residents. Could you explain, A, that involvement that you've had with local residents in the creation of this event? And secondly, had you considered, bearing in mind the fact that Mad Squirrel is the management company for the cricket club, holding this in an alternative venue which wasn't so close to residential properties and which also wasn't, in terms of the topography, something like a sound bowl?
So with this festival, so I emailed the residents because I know one of them that lives on Castle Hill to arrange a meeting. to discuss our plans for Burko Fields. I did this in May, I think early May it was, maybe end of April. And then we arranged a meeting with some of the residents to discuss the festival, what we were doing, and how we're overcoming potentially some of their concerns. So we had a meeting at Berkhamsted Cricket Club to basically engage with the community. Now, obviously, I've stated that this event is for the community. Our ticket sales are mainly, in fact, pretty much 85% Berkhamsted residents, which obviously I have data for. So what was your second point, sorry? Oh, why we chose the...
Yeah,
we chose the site mainly because Berkhamsted is calling out for an event. Now, there was a previous event festival held there called Burko Fest in I think it was 2018, 2019, which was a festival that's held on the same land for similar people. There's also the fireworks event that's held there every year on the same land for 4,000 people. So, you know, this is the reasons why we chose the site, because we believe, you know, it's a good location within the town and it's a great site. And there's also been history of previous events held there.
we may very well come back to that, but what I would make a comment about is that firework events normally take, if you're lucky, half an hour, as opposed to 2.5 days, which is what you're suggesting here. But we may come back to that. But talking about fireworks, what sort of fireworks are they going to be? Are they normal conventional fireworks? Or are they going to be silent fireworks?
What, as in, we're not...
Sorry?
What fireworks, as in the fireworks event, or the...
No, there's been reference made to the fact that there will be fireworks and pyrotechnics at this event. What I'm asking you is, if you're having fireworks specifically, are they going to be traditional fireworks, or are they going to be silent fireworks?
Well, they're not going to be silent, but we're going to use CO2 effectively jets. So it's not fireworks as such.
That's an interesting thing to hear. So just for clarification, there will be no fireworks.
So I think you're referring to the pyrotechnics that were mentioned in the in some of the event planning. This was so they were to sort of so there would be noise. However, as we've sort of mentioned previously, we are more than prepared to scale that back to prevent public nuisance, but also to address fire risk as well, given the recent heat wave that we've been suffering in the local area.
My next question, will Angela be present?
Pardon? As in, will we have an Ask Angela policy? Yes, absolutely.
You say in your summation that everybody will be trained in that. How will you know that they've been trained, and how will you know that they know? How will you know that they know what to do?
So I will include it as part of my briefing for all of the staff. It will be myself conducting a vast number of those briefings, but I will ensure that it is included in all of the briefings with the security team, the medical team, and all of the bar staff as well prior to the event.
At the beginning of your presentation, and also Mr. Besson's presentation, reference was made to your experience. You yourself have said that you've got a lot of experience in various things, but you've not actually identified any of the various things. So could you give us, so that we understand and the scale, 2 or 3 events that you have had principal control over?
Yes, absolutely. So I can mention some from my policing context, where I had responsibility for crime and public order, and also some licensing sort of issues. Obviously, there's crossover with local authority where licensing is concerned, but Notting Hill Carnival being the principal one of the largest or the largest carnival in Europe. I was public order commander for that on numerous years throughout my time in the Metropolitan Police. As a public order commander. I was also event and major incident trained, a trained JESIP commander as well, so the Joint Emergency Services interoperational protocol, just for clarity on that, helps emergency services coordinate and work together during major incidents. However, Garage Nation, which is another significant event that has attendance of 40,000 plus, I was responsible for the public order operation with regard to that, and also the security operation on ingress and egress from that event, including the management of things like behavioural detection teams and public order response capability. Outside of that, in the civilian sort of context, I've had management experience of Swansea Food Festival, which was a similar event, music, alcohol led, but also food concessions as well. So I had responsibility for that. That was for up to 5,000 people as well over in Wales. And then following that, I worked for Firefly Festivals, for a festival in New Milton, which was of a similar capacity, and also was a music and alcohol-led event, all of which passed without incident, and also included significant sort of coordination and liaison with the responsible authorities. You're welcome. So it's mainly to stop or to prevent as much disbursement of the sound meeting the residential areas. So it's not to completely prevent any sound, it's to minimise the amount of sound that actually leaves the site and to direct it away from residential premises. We appreciate that the sort of public nuisance element of this has been a significant concern to residents. We're not seeking to sort of minimise that at all from their perspective. However, we are seeking to keep the noise within the site, and there are also other things that we can do in terms of the speaker placement and the type of sound system that we use in order to sort of direct the sound into the sound field, which means that then we'll be able to lower the decibels while still maintaining a fun and safe event for the people. Yes. Well, usually we have procedures for that, councillor. So we would, if we identified that any noise had breached that decibel level, or that it was likely to, or received, for example, a noise complaint from residents, what we would do is then we would reduce that by a particular percentage. It might be 10%, 20%, and then we'd reassess the noise level leaving the site. Rather than completely shutting it down, we would then try to bring it operationally within the parameters set. The sound engineer would be fully briefed, and they would have a copy of the noise management plan, so they know the parameters that they're working within. And so in the unlikely event that something like that did happen, we do also have procedures to bring it back into compliance. And I've just got one other question after this, follow up to that one. You just said that local residents could actually complain about the sound level. Is there a facility for them to, sorry, thank you very much. Is there a facility for them to actually complain to you on the day? Yes, or on the night? So part of our event management plan and part of the noise management plan is to include a hotline that will be created and communicated in good time before the event, so that residents have got direct contact with the event management team, so that any issues can be dealt with promptly and safely. Okay. If the licence was granted, and this is a question for Mr. Besson, would you give a commitment that there would be overnight clearing and litter picking and clearing up of anything that may be left in the area, in the residential areas around, so that when people wake up in the following morning, they see a new pristine area rather than a rubbish pit?
Yeah, it's part of our plan. So we've already got a team that's going to go around and litter pick in the area. So we've already, it's been submitted, I believe, in SAG as well, the SAG plan regarding that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I may have some more, but thank you for that.
Please help yourself to water, because you are getting quite a few questions. If you run out, we get some more. No, I haven't even started yet. So I think this is a question, if you don't mind, for my support or our support. Ron has brought up about the police report. No comments. I mean, I think it'd be very important for the committee, but also the room, just to understand, have the police got no objections? Have they spent time looking at this?
The fact that none of the responsible authorities have taken the opportunity to raise any objections indicates they don't have any. I will also pass that on to my colleague in licensing to confirm my provisional view.
So just to repeat that, so you've not received any objections whatsoever? Rob?
Yeah, what my concern is, we know that the fire services across the country at the moment are at capacity, at excess capacity because of the current climate problems. The police are also limited in any spare capacity they may have. So what I'm concerned about is it not that there has been no objection, but has there been any comment or just that they have not responded? Which means that they haven't yet given their opinion. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the police opinions and the fire brigade opinion. If they have no objections, then that's fine. But at the moment, all I understand is we've had no comments. That's a different issue and a different matter.
I think if you, we can deliver.
Sorry.
Fire away, fire away.
We have been in communication with the police regularly, actually, regarding this event. We have spoken to them on a number of occasions. We continue and will work with them throughout. Respectfully, it's not really our fault as the organiser if the police haven't got the capacity to sort of respond to that. And I believe that it can be taken that they have no objections if they haven't responded within the consultation period. Any inference that they have objections that they just can't bring to the meeting is, it's not respectfully our responsibility. And we, as we've said, we do commit to working with the responsible authorities, including the police and the fire service, right up to and even after the event. Absolutely.
No, thank you. And that point has been noted. I'm going to maybe some of my questions would go a slightly different tangent because we've Thank you very much for all your patience. I'm going to just ask the applicants some questions. You know, we will have our own, private deliberations. So I've still got a very, very open mind. But of course, one of the outcomes, apart from a yes or a no, could be a yes with conditions. So I'm trying to, if it goes down that route, getting a feel for things. So can I ask, there's 3 days. There's if I understand it correctly, maybe the live deer first day, and then a full day for families. The third day in the afternoon, is that toddlers or is that?
It's for children, yeah, absolutely. So it's an organisation called Raver Tots will be sort of not taken over the site, but still managed by us, but they'll be coming onto the site and they conduct sort of live music events with a younger aged audience in mind. So yeah, so still families, so obviously they'll all be attending with parents or responsible adults and things like that. And we're expecting that day in particular will not be so obviously alcohol led because of the amount of children that will be on site. So
Yeah, fine, and it's a short day. Have many people bought tickets for all 3 days? There is a relevance to this.
So where we're at with ticket sales, so Raver Tots, which is the Sunday, which we were just talking about, the family day, is the most popular day. So we're currently at just over, I think we're about 1,500 people for that day.
Okay.
Saturday, which is the Ibiza Orchestra and also local bands as well, and it's also a family day, is sitting at about 650 currently, with a month to go. And the Friday is about, I think it's about 260. That's the precise numbers, so 260 people.
Fine, and our decisions are not about profit, but how many? Because if you think of caps and these sort of things, how many more tickets do you need to sell to actually be break even?
yeah, I mean, without going too much into the commercial side of it, Councillor Chair, sorry, we would volunteer that we would reduce that capacity that we've asked for on the licence, and we do sort of we appreciate that, and it might help with some of the public nuisance issues and the other issues. We've respectfully asked that that's sort of brought down no more than really 3,500 would be a viable figure for us.
Okay, and can you remind me what it was originally? Was it 4 or
5,000?
5,000? Okay. There could be some questions for any of the supporters if you're comfortable with that.
The a question for Mr. Besson. In reality, how many people do you think you're going to get each day?
I think the Sunday will be our most popular day, which
Yeah.
is the 12 till 6. So I think at best will probably be around the, I'm going to guess, the 2,000 to 2,500 mark. And then Saturday, I'm kind of sitting between 1,000 at the moment to 1,500. And the Friday, 700-800, something like that. So although we put the application in for 5,000, this is the first year of this event, so we've got a lot of growth to do. We've still got a month to go, and obviously a lot of ticket sales are sold in the last month with events. That's just how it works. Yeah. Obviously, yeah, that's basically where we're at the moment.
Thank you. A question to the residents. Now, this may be difficult because I'm assuming that you don't actually have a spokesperson, but I am looking at either the local councillor or indeed the deputy town clerk or the full town clerk.
There was a spokesperson.
Oh, have you got a spokesperson? Yeah, okay. You don't know what the question is going to be yet. From what you've heard, and I stress that I come to this with an open mind, an absolutely open mind, but from what you've heard from the applicants, Are you in any way reassured, firstly? And secondly, is there anything else that you would like them to commit to that would give you that reassurance that this event could go forth with the minimum disruption, bearing in mind that any event, whatever it is, in any place, football match or whatever, it can always be disruptive to the local residents?
I'll attempt to speak for my neighbors, but obviously we haven't planned this. Excuse me. I'm not reassured, and I'm quite confident my neighbors are not reassured, and let me explain why that is the case. The past events held at the cricket club site over the last few years, and increasingly over the last, say, 2 years, 3 years, have been much smaller. I mean, the events that we have cited are examples, are all very recent examples. We can give you dates. We think, I mean, we're not there counting the number of attendees. We're not at these events, but we think these are events of 100 people, maybe 150 people at the cricket club site, causing the kinds of crime and damage and verbal abuse and so on that we've described. And that's with 100 people. Under the same management as is sitting here today. And so even though they're saying Brewfest is a completely different company, and it is, we've checked on Companies House, it's the same management and it's the same location. The thing to really emphasize is I'm sure their event management plan is extremely robust for the site itself, but attendees arriving and departing are not on that site. They're in our neighborhood. They're in these fire-prone fields. And you heard from Karima, there's already been 2 attendances of the fire services just in the last month in these surrounding fields. There's no way that the event organizers and their security team are going to be able to control behaviors in these surrounding areas and in our neighborhood. I mean, it's 360 surrounded open access. So no, I'm sorry to say we're not reassured. I think one of my neighbors wanted to, yeah.
Feel free, feel free.
Thank you very much.
I've been told to ask you if you could just repeat your name just before you talk.
It's Karima Sultan, and I would like to highlight something that came up from today in the last statement from the applicant is the fact that this is the first year of this event. This has, in fact, terrified me, I must say. My property sits between the 2 sides of Kitchener's Field, and there is a now established annual event on one side, which is the school side, and that's Berko Beer Fest, which has caused us a lot of stress and anxiety last year. This year, unfortunately, I wasn't there in order to document the proceedings because I had to travel abroad for a bereavement. So I don't have any fresh evidence from that site. And then on the other side, my property borders Kitchener's Field, which is the cricket field side. Hearing from the applicant that this is the first year of this event is frankly quite terrifying. We have young children and there are a lot of children and other families that would be equally terrified to hear this piece of information. So I'm afraid, no, this has in fact heightened our anxiety in relation to this proposed festival. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We're just going to check to see if we've got any more of our own questions to the applicant or the applicant, but until we get on to your questions. So bear with me for a moment. That's right. That's right.
Thanks to Councillor Duris's magic fingers. Yeah, I'd like to go back to the insurance. You've heard now from the applicants that one of their abiding concerns is the disturbance and other problems that may be caused externally to the location of the event. Are you carrying any insurance, or are there any specifications in your insurance that actually allows claims on any property for any property damage or other damage or other events which can be linked to the site either before or after the event?
Councillor, I think that would be quite a hard press to find an insurance company that would insure you for things that happen outside of your event. So the short answer to that is no.
Right.
However, we have put a lot of measures in place, including, as I mentioned, the SIA security. People mentioned drugs and laughing gas. Laughing gas is now a controlled drug, a Class C. We have a search regime coming into the event. We will find those things during that search, and they will be confiscated and handed to the police post-event. That will be an arrangement that we make directly with the police. Damage and things like that. The egress, I think one of the residents just mentioned then that we don't have control over ingress and egress. In fact, these are the most critical parts of any event, actually. So we do have control over how we ingress and egress people. And we will be marshalling them to and from the site. We will have security patrols in the road outside. And as I mentioned earlier, they do have the same powers where they witness criminal damage or they witness public urination and offences of that nature. Just like any citizen, they do have the right to intervene in that. However, the SIA security would obviously have more training and more authority where it is an event participant.
You've satisfied me on the actual site itself. I'm getting back to this problem of the surrounding area because you see, and I'm not particularly convinced that the police, the Hertfordshire Constabulary, would welcome your employed security guards actually wandering around policing the streets, as you say. So therefore, there would not be much happening outside the site. And it occurred to me that given the paucity of a train service at 11:30, you could have upwards of 1,000 people affected with alcohol trying to get down to the station, finding there's no trains, and then wondering how they're going to get home. And I just wondered how you would deal with that.
If you don't mind me interrupting, did they not say that 85% of the tickets were Berkhamsted residents so far?
Absolutely, yeah, that is what we said.
We don't know what's going to happen in the next
Additionally,
month.
we are promoting local taxi services to them as well. Unfortunately, we can't control if people aren't able to manage their own time after the event and make the train service. Then that, unfortunately, we can provide them with other options. It may be that some choose to stay locally, so there is a local economic benefit to that. And the pubs locally have licenses up till 1 a.m. And so once the event finishes at 11, it may well be that they can continue to stay in the area and feed in the local economy in that way. But obviously that's anyone's guess really. We can't, we can reasonably plan for these things. And we do have relationships with local taxi firms. However, once they leave our event site, as you quite rightly point out, there isn't an awful lot that we can do in terms of ensuring that they get onto public transport to get home. And we can't force anybody to do that, and neither can the police.
Okay, fine. It's just that I have a long memory of events and certain incidents. One year of the Dagenham Town Show brought that question into being, so perhaps I might relay it at some point in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got, before I move on to some questions and points we're being given, I've just got a couple of comments or questions in regards to fire risk. How satisfactory would it be if you had a ruling that no fireworks or pyrotechnics could be used for high risk? And also, is it possible or practical that there could be no smoking at the event? Because I'm just thinking of vapes maybe, but I don't know if that's realistic or not.
I'll take them in the order that you gave them to me. So the pyrotechnics, absolutely, we're committed to that already. We've been liaising with the chair of the SAG regarding some concerns around fire risk. It's something that we already have in our plan, as I mentioned in my initial sort of submission. We are more than happy to curtail any pyrotechnics and flames, for example, in order to sort of make the event safe because of the dry conditions that we have on site. An important point somebody raised about the hay bales, I think, is important because it is relevant to fire risk. They won't just be freestanding, they will be surrounded by an exclusion zone of between 3 and 5 metres, I'd likely say 5 metres, and that's to prevent ignition from things such as discarded cigarette butts. Regarding the site itself, the areas that people have mentioned in the surrounding fields, they won't be easily accessible. We'll have concessions there, so those areas will be protected to a degree, and also some of the emergency exits are there, so they will be stewarded at the time because they are emergency exits, so we will have people there at all times. Additionally, we will, the ground at the cricket club, as you can imagine, is very well kept. The grass cuttings are collected, and so ignition is deemed to be low from things like cigarette butts because the ground is the grass is very shortly cut and all of the clippings are collected beforehand. So I'd expect ignition to be low. So in terms of no smoking, I think that would be quite difficult for us to manage respectfully, Chair. However, we will have regular fire patrols. We'll have sufficient fire extinguishers, and we do have a significant presence of qualified firefighters with additional equipment in order to deal with that. Those areas are also surrounding the site. They're the vulnerable areas that I mentioned earlier that we would harass. And so there will be no access to the site via those routes. So there will be no incentive for people to sort of come there. Obviously, we can't control the general public if they choose to attend there. To sort of view it for free, as you will, then unfortunately that is not something that we can control as event organisers, but perhaps we could notify the local police because they would presumably technically be trespassers unless it's on SANG land and that's public access land. But if they are committing antisocial behaviour, it could be something that we have a procedure in place. And there's nothing in any of that that prohibits us from talking to them. So we might not have any power to move them on, but we can certainly liaise with them and communicate. There's nothing that prohibits us from doing that, and we would seek to actively protect that land so far as we could.
Okay, thank you. So unless my fellow committee members have any new questions, I'll start reading out what I've received, and hopefully my interpretation is correct. Otherwise, please correct me. We've got some more. Well, in no particular order, and this is a question we've received, what actual evidence can you provide that your sound direction equipment and method actually works? Have you tested it in this location in view of the topography of Kitchener's Field? That's one question.
Yes, so the evidence that it works is from previous events. So we have significant experience, actually. We're going to have sound engineers on site as well. So we'll be able to direct it. But any event of this nature that's using amplified music should have a qualified sound engineer on site, and they will be. Regarding testing it on site, I think we would require a license to do that. So sound tests will take place because it would be amplified music. So we wouldn't be able to test the site, but that's what we do prior to the event and as the event goes through. And as I say, we've got significant control measures in place in order to make sure that we stick within our noise management plan and any conditions that are potentially placed on the license if granted.
As we've just got another bundle of questions, I've been asked to ask no more questions at this point, because this, we need to try and get to a decision today. I'm not sure if this is a question or a statement. Oh, right. Okay. So it's a clarification that in early September 1924, 2024, there was a community event for charity, and there were no more than 2,000
Can I,
on one day. Yes.
this is an update on the Berkofest comment that was made. Yes, we've had Berkofest on the field. It's generally been only one day on a Saturday, and it's generally been intended to raise money for charity. It's been for a number of years. The major one, in fact, was around about the millennium.
Okay, thanks for that clarity.
May I just clarify one point on Berkofest, having spoken to the organisers, they were just very keen, which I think Gareth has as well, very keen to emphasise. The police asked them to close at 9 p.m. It was only one day. It was staffed by volunteers. It was a community event, not a commercial event. It's entirely different from this event, just so that we're clear. That there is no comparison.
This is a question. Only one entry and exit for 5,000. I think we've established might not be that much. How can this be safe in case of an evacuation?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is one main driveway that leads up to that, but there is also a public footpath, and to the rear there is a farmer's field in the event of an emergency. I've been round and measured the gates, and there is sufficient capacity to have everybody off that site within 5 minutes. I've measured the gates, including excluding the largest exit, which is per the regulations. In case one of the exits is compromised, I included that in the calculation, and to get 5,000 people out within 5 minutes is possible according to that calculation. So any reduced number, that the committee sees fit, would only make the event safer.
Thank you. Regarding fire truck, there's two parts to the question. Where will the fire truck be positioned? And will they also take responsibility for fires in the surrounding fields? And if so, how much will that work with one truck in the event of multiple fires?
I think that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, the fire truck is planned to be positioned behind stage, which is where we were initially intending to have pyrotechnics and the sort of the most flammable material that would be on site, obviously safely managed. However, that would be where most likely source of ignition would come from because of naturally using pyrotechnics. However, a full risk assessment's been completed with that. So we're not anticipating that there would be any ignition or indeed any fire at all, but we have to put sufficient planning in place to do that. In terms of the fields outside, I'm not sure what responsibility we would have other than a moral one rather than a legal one to protect those fields, and that would be for Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue. However, I'm confident in saying that if a firefighter sees a fire on our, even if it's just outside of our site, they would attempt to respond to prevent it getting any worse. So whilst we couldn't sort of formally take any responsibility for managing that area, because where does that stop, respectfully, Chair?
Yeah.
We'll take responsibility for our site, and we'll commit to, if we do witness a fire in a surrounding field, that we'd make best effort to try and tackle that fire within our capability, but that, statutorily, it would be the responsibility of the fire service.
Okay, noted, thank you. Two more. 85% of tickets may be from Berkhamsted, but how do you guarantee that this will continue to be the case given that this is being promoted in London This is very relevant given the lack of trains after 11:30.
Well, to start with, it's not been promoted in London. Social medias obviously can go, as we all know, to any area of the country, but our main marketing tool is social media, which, okay, you can maybe argue that it could go to London, but majority of the target audience that we've planned in is for the local decorum area. So we haven't done any physical advertising in London. In fact, the only advertising we've done is via social media, our own page and local magazines so far. So that kind of answer. So I basically expect tickets to go on that track. So the ticket share will continue to be mainly the decorum area because that's what we're targeting.
Thank you, thank you. Last question, and you've been, well, everyone's been very patient, but you've obviously been working a little bit harder. Given that you are now suggesting 3,500 people, how will you stop people gathering in surrounding fields, as this could significantly increase the numbers? Will your security people patrol all these fields? We might have covered this. How will you manage fire risk in the surrounding areas? I think we've covered that last point.
Yeah.
Enough.
Oh,
is it? I think it's very similar to another question we've had.
I'm happy to clarify, Chair, if it would help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So yes, I mean, our security arrangements that are in place, we will cover ingress and egress. Where we do see people in adjacent fields that are perhaps doing that, as I said, there's nothing that prohibits us from going and speaking to those individuals and just sort of gauging what they're doing. Unfortunately, with any event, you can't stop people freeloading, for want of a better word. But as long as you know, it would be for the landowner where there is one. To identify them as a trespasser and potentially, you know, then trigger police involvement. However, we're more than happy to go and sort of have a conversation with those individuals, double check what the nature of their being there is, and if there is any sort of risk or antisocial behaviour identified, then we would report that through the correct channels ourselves. And just finally on that, the fire point we did mention just in the previous question. So if you're, unless you seek clarification on that.
No, that was fine. I was just being handy questions. First time I've read them all. I want to pick up on a point that you made, and I can't find my notes to it, that there was something that you wasn't made aware of before.
Yes.
Could you remind us what that is,
The
please?
plan and enforcement action that's about to be taken. So whilst it's strictly outside of your jurisdiction today, I thought it might help to clarify the position and that we have been liaising with them because the planning authority are one of the statutory consultees, absolutely. So we did speak to them. We've told them that we're going to rely on permitted development rights for up to 28 days. And they have responded to tell us that it's unlikely that planning or any of the notices identified during the consultation process would be likely to stop the event from being able to take place. And that's the position that we've been basing all of our planning on. So I have heard from the planning authority and they have said that it's unlikely to prevent us relying on permitted development rights to temporarily change the use for a 3-day festival.
Thank you for that. Our decision today will be based on assessing the application in line with the licensing objectives set out in the relevant legislation. So that planning matter you've mentioned, thank you for providing us an update, but our primary consideration will, the panel's primary considerations will be assessing the application against the licensing objectives. Thank you.
This may come as a severe shock, but I've read and I've heard of So Solid Crew, and I believe that they are one of the performers. Are they a local group? And alternatively, are any of the performers over the 3 days local Berkhamsted or even Hertfordshire people?
Yes, so our concept is to have some well-known names mixed with local talent. So, for example, on the Friday, there's 3 local DJs that are from Berkhamsted and play in the local pubs, mixed in with other people. On the Saturday, we've got the Vegas girls that live in Berkhamsted. We've got Rippy and the Ruckus that lives in Berkhamsted. We've got Blonde Rebel that plays at the Goat in Berkhamsted. So to answer the question is, we are a mix between some more well-known, but a lot of local talent effectively. And that's part of our sort of ethos, is to involve the local talent in the area.
That one. Right. Yes, it's just that, as I say, like a bit like Terry, which surprised people to know, I've actually been trawling the guidance, government's guidance regulations, and I've come across protection of children from harm. Now, on the days when you're expecting lots of children on the site, and I take that anybody under 18, will you have the alcohol selling area distinctly wired off, sort of totally sort of divorced from the other parts of the site?
That's certainly something that we can look at, councillor. We do have stationed by the bars SIA security, and so age related checks will happen. But just like you'd get in a pub, you do get children in pubs. However, you know, we have a commitment to safeguarding them. We'll have measures in place to look out for proxy sales, for example. Whereby somebody else has bought it for an underage individual. So security will be briefed, and all staff, in fairness, not just security, but all staff will be briefed in order to monitor and to look out for that. So not just at the point of sale, but throughout the entire festival, to be alert to the fact that some people do buy for underage individuals. It's not something that we're necessarily expecting too much on the Raver Tots Day. That's aimed more at a very much younger category. But I do see your point in terms of for the Saturday, and it is something that we can definitely
and just for
with.
clarification, I'm referring to section 2.28 of section 182 of the regulations, if anybody cares to read that.
The bar area.
The other point is that, and there was a thought. No, it's okay. That I'm just more concerned with the children aspect, so I'll leave the other point.
I'd just also make a point about the bars. Is obviously we'll be operating Challenge 25, and all of my team will be briefed on that. We've also got multiple personal license holders within my team. So and everyone who works for me has done alcohol licensing training as well. So we basically cover all aspects of that. So
yeah, I was thinking, given the fact that if you're designating one day as a family day, then perhaps your site layout, the way you work things, you can ensure that the children don't necessarily try and gravitate to the nearest back door of the bar.
That shouldn't be possible. We've got it'd be closed on the back and on 3 sides, and the only area that's accessible to the public will be the front of that. But the bar will be stepped back inside, so the bar area will be clearly defined. If that's sort of just to clarify, the bar area will be clearly defined. Soft drinks and water and things like that will also be available from the bar. So the Challenge 25 element is obviously critical, and we'll be monitoring that ourselves. We'll be operating a refusals register, which is obviously going to be there for inspection by any licensing authority or the police. And we'll also have an incident management log that happens throughout the event. So then we can cover anything during any debrief that may be required.
If you bear with me, sorry, I just remembered the other aspect of which is of course that are you actually employing a reputable company to provide your communications system on the day, on the days, so that everybody involved can communicate with each other and with the police?
Yes, absolutely. So the security company, they're very well experienced in events, and they work in the film and television industry as well. They will come with a robust enough sort of communication system, and we've also got, as part of the event management plan, about radio procedure, different site statuses, depending on whether we're managing an incident, dealing with an emergency, or whether everything's green, as we would call it. That, you know, we've those have been taken, one from the Purple Guide, but also from my knowledge of JESIP and interoperation protocols. So the command structure, bronze, silver, gold.
Could you tell me which is the security company?
It's Guard Tech Limited. Guard
Okay.
Tech Limited.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
I have one question, Mr. Mount. Can you confirm if you will be on site for the duration of the event?
I will be, Councillor, yes. So I'm the designated event manager, so at all times I will be on site throughout the event. The only exception to that might be when I go and have a sleep overnight, whilst it is looked after by the overnight security, which we will have as well.
Last question, I promise, and then we can hopefully have a break. And it's probably me being daft, but you said a capacity reduction from 5,000 to 3,500. Is that per day or in total? Is that...
That would be site capacity per day. So that's the license would be per day, and then at any time the site would only be able to have sort of 3,500.
And without wanting to offend, you know, apart from the Sunday, the Friday, Saturday, you'll be far pushed to get anywhere close to that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. As Jack explained, though, it is the first year of the event.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we'd necessarily look to do it in the same location. However, we are hoping that it grows. Most events make a loss in their first year. It's fair to say in the industry. And so we were seeking that. You know, another point to maybe raise is some of the conduct that's happened on social media. People have been trying to harm the sales. I won't name any names in here, Councillor, because I don't want to make it tit-for-tat, but people have been trying to harm the sales on the basis that we've not received an alcohol licence at this stage. But that is also common practice within the events industry, and tickets have to go on sale. You have to have a long run up for ticket sales because of that very thing. But what we have been seeing is comments on social media from residents. And we've identified them as residents trying to harm our ticket sales on the basis that we've not got an alcohol licence at present, which, whilst that's not something that you would necessarily take into consideration, that's what we've been up against in terms of ticket sales.
Yeah, no, and thanks for clarifying that. And just so you understand the nature of the question, it was not to judge or criticise your current sales. I think I do understand the point and how businesses need to build up traction. It's just to try, if it ever becomes relevant in our discussions, to try and get a happy medium to try and give peace of mind with the numbers.
I understand.
Within a realistic way.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So what we'll be doing, we'll be having a short break ourselves, and then we will be all, you know, on our own in our deliberations. I've got absolutely no idea how long this may take, whether it will be, you know, an hour, 3 hours. So am I right in thinking we normally allow people to come back to the verdict? We don't even know if the verdict will be reached this afternoon. Am I right in thinking it's 5 working days we have to come up with a verdict? We're going to do our best, but you know, this is the first time we've discussed this with ourselves. So please feel free to stay. But I understand if you don't want to hang around too long.
Just if I may, what we will do,
Here is okay, thank you. Okay. So thank you very much for returning, and thank you very much again for all the time and effort you've all put into to this. The committee has come to a decision. The committee has decided to grant the application, but with some following conditions attached. It is noted that the responsible authorities, including the fire brigade, police, and the environmental and community protection pollution team, had reviewed the applicant's 91-page management plan and did not raise any objections to the application. However, the application is granted with these following conditions: that the attendees is limited to £3,500 per day. Performance and the live music times will be amended as follows. So on Friday, the 11th of September, it still can start at 3, but we'd like the music to end earlier at 10:30. On Saturday, the 12th, allowed to continue at 12, but that also ending earlier at 10:30 as well. The supply of alcohol and consumption on premises, we would like the alcohol license to end a little bit earlier than requested. And so on Friday, the 11th of September, it can start as proposed at 3 p.m. We would like that to end earlier at 10:30. And then on Saturday, the 12th of September, to start at 12 midday, but that also finishing earlier at 10:30. We'd also like the late night refreshment time reduced to finishing at 11 instead of 11:30. Other conditions to take into account due to the extreme warm weather that we've had is no fireworks of any kind. And in the unlikely event someone tries to bring portable barbecues, they're not allowed under any circumstance. A written reason for all these decisions will be released within 5 working days, and the logic behind that. Okay, so thank you for all your time, and the meeting this afternoon is ended. Okay, thank you.